The restaurant patio fell silent. Glasses froze mid-air. My smile remained fixed, but something had shifted. "Then let Daniel pay your bills," I said, the words slipping out with surprising calm. I placed my napkin on the table, stood up, and walked away from my own graduation dinner, away from the father who had just told me, "You don't deserve your success." That single moment crystallized everything. The laughter stopped. The clink of utensils against plates vanished. My father blinked slowly, processing what I'd said, but I knew exactly what I meant. For the first time in my life, I had spoken without second-guessing myself. I had worked relentlessly through Oak Haven University, scholarships, late-night tutoring sessions, weekend shifts that left my feet aching. I paid for everything myself, no family help, no safety net, just determination and countless sleepless nights. Yet I wanted to celebrate with them. I spent nearly all my savings to rent this restaurant patio, hired a musician, ordered everyone's favorite foods. I wanted the night to feel special, a new beginning. It became one, just not in the way I expected. Everyone showed up. My quiet mother, who never contradicted my father, my aunt and uncle perpetually caught between supporting me and staying neutral. My little cousins playing with the balloons I'd carefully arranged that morning. And my father, late, slightly drunk, wearing a wrinkled fishing shirt instead of the nice clothes I'd asked everyone to wear. Daniel didn't come. He rarely did. But my father couldn't stop talking about him all night. "You don't deserve this success," my father said, raising his glass like he was making a toast. Daniel did. He wasn't joking. He wasn't too drunk to know what he was saying. He meant every word, and they cut through me like glass. In that moment, I realized I'd spent my entire life hoping he would say he was proud of me, but I knew now he never would. So I raised my glass and said, "Great. Then he can start paying your bills too." I didn't yell. I didn't have to. Everyone heard me clearly. A few people even smiled, not because it was funny, but because they understood. I set my glass down, looked at my father one last time, and left without another word. I couldn't go home. Home didn't feel safe anymore, so I drove aimlessly, eventually stopping at Lookout Point, a cliff overlooking the city where people went to think. The cold night air rushed through my open windows, but I welcomed it. It kept me awake, alert, present. All I could hear in my head was his voice. "You don't deserve this success. Daniel did." I had worked for everything I had, my degree, my job, my independence. What had Daniel done? He dropped out after one semester, yet my father still called him the smart one. I started working at 16 to buy my own school clothes while Daniel could barely hold a job but received endless praise. The inequality had always been there, but I didn't realize how deep it ran until my third year of college. I came home one weekend and discovered Daniel's tuition had been paid in full. Meanwhile, I worked 3 jobs to cover my own expenses. I told myself maybe they couldn't help me or thought I didn't need assistance. But that night, hearing my father praise Daniel while completely ignoring everything I'd accomplished, I finally saw the truth. Standing at Lookout Point with the city lights blinking below me, I whispered, "It ends now." I wasn't just talking about that night. I meant the pretending, the silent hope, the constant need to prove myself. I was done trying to make people care who never would. I'd spent years trying to be noticed, but it never happened. My family wasn't evil. They just didn't care about me. They only remembered me when it was convenient, when they needed help with taxes, computer problems, or rides. They didn't hate me. They simply didn't think about me at all. That realization stayed with me for days. I didn't answer calls or messages. My aunt texted that my father wasn't himself. My mother left a voicemail saying I shouldn't let one moment ruin everything. But it wasn't just one moment. It was all the little things accumulated over years. The times they praised Daniel and ignored me. like when I talked about my future, and my father said I was too much, but later bragged about Daniel starting a band that never even played a single show. All the frustration I had buried for years started surfacing. Old memories I hadn't thought about for years came flooding back. The time I broke my arm in high school and still got blamed for missing practice, while Daniel failed every class and got rewarded with a trip to Florida to relax. Or the day I opened my college acceptance letter and my father said, "Don't count on us to pay for anything." I wasn't counting on it. I never had. But I had given everything I had, my time, my money, my energy, my silence. Eventually, I had nothing left to give. There wasn't a dramatic moment where I screamed or broke down. I just stopped. Stopped reaching out. Stopped replying. Stopped hoping they'd change. They always wanted me to be the quiet, dependable one, the one who helped but stayed in the background. I'd played that role for so long that I almost forgot I didn't have to anymore. The decision didn't come with a lightning bolt of realization. It happened on a regular Tuesday. Just a normal, boring Tuesday, 2 days after the dinner. I woke up, made coffee, sat at my small kitchen table, and looked at the only photo from my graduation. It was taken before I left the restaurant. In the background, people were laughing. Food covered the table. Balloons floated in the air. But I wasn't looking at any of that. I was looking at myself. I didn't look proud or relieved. I looked exhausted, like someone who had carried something heavy for so long they forgot it was okay to put it down. That's when I picked up my phone, not to text or call, but to block. First my father, then my mother, then Daniel, then the family group chat that only remembered me when they needed help. One by one, I shut them out. No speeches, no social media posts. I just turned down the noise. Then I started packing. I had stayed in that apartment out of habit. It was close enough for them to call me, but far enough to feel like I had some space. But it never felt like mine. It was just a place between trying and giving up. I sold most of my possessions, used the money to pay off some student loans, handed my lease to a coworker. In 2 weeks, I was gone. New apartment, new city, new phone number, no goodbyes, no explanations. The only thing I took was my diploma. I framed it and hung it above my desk, not to impress anyone, but as a reminder to myself that I did it alone, that it mattered, even if no one else acknowledged it. It was strange how loud life had felt when they were still in it, their words, their judgments, their backhanded comments. The constant thought, should I text them? Maybe this time they'll understand. But when all that noise went away, I thought I'd feel lonely. I didn't. I felt lighter. That first night in my new apartment, I sat on the floor. No couch, no bed, just a mattress and a box of food. It was quiet. Not the kind of silence that makes you anxious, but the kind that feels peaceful, like air slowly filling your lungs. I didn't check my phone, didn't scroll, didn't wonder who was trying to reach me. I already knew what I'd see. Missed calls, guilt-tripping texts, the same old attempts to pull me back. But I had blocked all of it. Not to hurt them, but because there was nothing left to explain to people who had already decided who I was. In that silence, I started to remember who I used to be. I remembered how much I loved cooking before every family meal turned into a moment to be judged. So the second night, I made myself something real: roasted vegetables, garlic bread, and pasta. But I ate it at a table I put together myself. I remembered I used to sketch. While unpacking, I found old notebooks filled with drawings I hadn't looked at in years. I spent a few nights drawing again. No fear of being watched, no pressure, just me and my art. Little by little, new people started to appear in my life. There was Thomas, who lived nearby. He invited me to his game nights with friends. Then there was Laura, who I met at a bookstore. We started talking over coffee. My coworkers began seeing me as more than just the dependable one. They actually wanted to hear my thoughts, my ideas. They didn't know about the years I spent trying to win my family's affection, and I wasn't about to explain it. They just liked me for who I was now. I didn't have to prove anything. About 3 months after that dinner, I got home from work one evening when there was a knock at my door. 3 sharp knocks. Not a neighbor, not a delivery. I froze. When I opened it, there was my mother. She looked different. Smaller somehow, like she was trying to seem confident but couldn't quite manage it. I was nearby, she said. Like that explained everything. Figured I'd drop by. I didn't say anything. I just held the door slightly open, letting her decide what to say next. She looked around the apartment, almost surprised that I had built a life separate from them. "Your father's been asking about you," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "He's not feeling well. He misses you." That was it. The guilt was there, but I didn't react the way I used to. I just said he had the chance to say that at the party and calmly closed the door. No hate, just certainty. 7 days later, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but the time caught my attention. 2:43 a.m. Nobody calls at that hour unless they've been drinking or are emotional. I sat on the edge of my bed, stared at the screen, and hesitated. Eventually, I hit play. It was my father. His voice was slow and controlled. "What's your deal?" he said. "You've always acted like you were above us, like the world owes you something. You finished your degree. Good for you, but don't pretend you did it all on your own. You come from us, and sooner or later, you'll come back." The line cut off. No apology, no acknowledgement, just more of the same. But this time, his words didn't affect me. They only confirmed what I already knew. I didn't belong to their story anymore. And that realization brought me peace. When I heard the voicemail, I didn't feel angry. I didn't cry. I just sat in my apartment looking at the lights and realized I was done. Not broken, not crushed, just done. It's strange how final something can feel without a big moment. No shouting, no explosion, just silence. I listened to a voice that used to matter, and now it was nothing. It felt like hearing someone I once knew, but they no longer had any impact on my life. That voicemail was the last time I heard him speak. I didn't block the number, didn't respond. I just left it there. Like all the questions I used to ask myself, not reacting brought me more peace than arguing ever could. Things didn't become perfect, but they became real. I found work that felt right for me. Nothing fancy, just steady income. I also started doing freelance design work that let me be creative again. Those projects helped me remember I wasn't just what my family made me feel like. Slowly, my apartment started to feel like home. Bookshelves filled with books I loved. A secondhand dining table with mismatched chairs that somehow worked together. A framed picture of me in my cap and gown, smiling not to show off, but because I was proud of myself. I made new friends who didn't want anything from me, and I didn't feel guilty about it. Thomas, my neighbor, became a real friend. One night we had beers, and I told him everything. He wasn't surprised or awkward. He just handed me another drink and said, "Some families lift you up, some tear you apart. Looks like yours did both." Laura and I started spending more time together too. It was slow, steady, and real. No games, no drama. Just 2 people who had been hurt but were still willing to try. That made it special. I didn't rebuild my life to show anyone anything. I did it because I finally believed I deserved a good life. Not because of what I achieved or suffered, but because everyone deserves to feel loved and cared for without earning it. One afternoon, while I was hanging a new picture on the wall, my phone rang. 37 missed calls, all from people I used to know. The same people who only remembered me when they wanted something. I looked at the screen, turned the sound off, and went back to hanging the frame. It was a quiet Sunday, the kind of day where everything felt peaceful and the sun made the world look softer. I was walking home from the coffee shop holding a warm loaf of sourdough and 2 iced drinks, one for me, one for Laura. She was waiting for me at my apartment, flipping through the record collection we'd been building together. I wasn't thinking about my family at all until I turned the corner and saw my mother's car parked outside. It hadn't been there in almost a year. I stopped walking. My heart stayed calm. My mind didn't panic. She was standing by the front door of my building, looking up at the windows like she didn't know which one was mine anymore. She hadn't seen me yet. I stood a little farther down the street and watched. She was holding something, maybe a letter. Maybe it said, "We miss you," or "Your father didn't mean it," or "Can we talk?" But I didn't need to read it. I already knew how that story would go. I didn't call her name, didn't walk up to her, didn't turn around. I just walked by slow and calm. She looked up as I crossed the street and we made eye contact. She opened her mouth to speak, but I gave her nothing. No wave, no smile, no look, just silence. Not to hurt her, but to protect my peace. I had already forgiven her quietly, without a speech. But forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone back in, especially when they don't know how to approach you. I went upstairs to my apartment. Laura was there, barefoot, hair tied up, playing an old record. It felt like a peaceful movie scene. She smiled when she saw me. I handed her the drink and kissed her cheek like nothing had happened, because to me, nothing had. The past stayed outside, but I was already home. My diploma hangs above my desk now, simple black frame, no lights, no special display. Just quiet proof of what I did when no one was cheering me on. Sometimes in the evening I sit under it with a warm cup of coffee, the window open, soft music playing. That's my favorite part of the day. The quiet, the peace, the reminder of who I've become. My phone sits beside me, still full of missed calls, some from my mother, some from distant relatives who only called when they needed something. Even a few from unknown numbers I could guess. I don't block them anymore, but I don't answer either. What would I say? That I'm okay now? That I'm happy? That I found love, real friends, and peace, not because of them, but despite everything they did? I don't owe them that story. I lived it. That's enough.